So welcome everyone and welcome to the Business Hour here on Unity FM. My name is Umar Rashid, I'm your host today, and this is the show where we talk all things business. So whether you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, an employee, or someone that's thinking about going into business, and this is the show where we have you covered through our guests coming on here talking about their experiences and their specialties in the world of business. Now, before I go to introduce our guest today, if you've not listened to the show before and you've missed the episodes and would like to listen, then you can do so by visiting the Unity FM website. Alternatively, you can also visit my YouTube channel at Umar Rashid HR, and you can also connect with me on other social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Again, the handles for all of those are at Umar Rashid HR. Now, today's guest is a very special guest, someone who at such a young age has achieved so much and gives great inspiration to people within the community. And he is the current CEO of Lioncroft. He's also the current president of the ABCC, which is better known as the Asian Business Chamber of Commerce. He's also the chairman of the West Midlands India Partnership, a member of the Aston University Governing Council. He was awarded an honorary doctorate by Aston University in 2014 for his services to business and charities, and in 2017 he was awarded an OBE for the services to business and international trade, and he was also previously the director of East End Foods. Welcome, Dr Jason Wourha. How are you, sir?
Hello, Umar. How are you?
I am very well. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Not a problem. Pleasure.
Good. Jason, through my introduction, you know, you've done a lot of things. For my first question, when I read out bios of my guests, and they've obviously achieved a lot and do a lot, the first question is, how do you find the time to kind of squeeze everything in? Because as well with that, you're also a husband as well, you've got a family, so how do you find the time?
I think you have to make the time, but more importantly, if you are passionate about something, you'll always make time, you'll always find the time and try your best to do the best job you possibly can. So that's really how you fit stuff in, is because you're just passionate about the subject. Good stuff.
Now, my last bit I said to you was that you're the director of East End Foods, and I think, you know, people listening on the show, very much within the Asian community, that is a brand without a doubt everyone knows, and I'm sure every Asian household would have had some item of things from East End. Yeah,
hopefully.
I did, and the mango juices, I said to you, the mango was one of my favourite ones. I'm kind of interested, firstly, how did it all start? It started with your dad and your uncle, I believe.
Yes, it's my father and his four brothers who came over from India in the 60s to Wolverhampton.
Okay.
Now, many Asian families have got the same story, really. Just actually taking a step back from there, my family are from Gujranwala now in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And obviously during the partition we moved over to Delhi and re-established there. A fairly humble family, you know. Grandfather was a aeronautical draftsman, 7 kids, and for economic reasons my dad's older brother Tony moved over to the UK first. Came over to earn the money for the family, and, like, you know, this story happens time and time again in our community. And then slowly the rest of the family came over, and the 5 brothers set up East End Foods in Wolverhampton, initially as a small grocery shop, butchery shop, delivering goods to people and Asian community around that area, Wolverhampton area. Following that, then we started to grow, and as the community increased around us, we saw that, you know, we should start wholesaling. So we went into wholesaling and a bit of packing of Indian food, supplying dals and spices and rice and things, repackaging and then selling. Yeah. And eventually the East End brand was born in the late 70s.
Was your family one of the first to do that within the Asian community at that time?
Yeah, I think there were 2 or 3 families really that were involved in that at that time, and that was, you had 3 brands. There was our brand, which was in its inception baby phase.
Yeah.
You had another company down south in London, again a very reputable, very respected family, the Wourha family. TRS is their brand, and you had Natco, which again was a very, very well known brand. So those three brands, and there would have been others around, but these were the three that were the kind of the people that were building up at that time. And as the community grew, our people were, our community generally, a lot of us have been into food retailing or clothing retailing and things like that. So, our customer base was becoming bigger and bigger. And as that customer base increased, the brand increased and started to develop.
So at what stage did you enter the business, and was it something from a very young age, and was it kind of not told to you, or was it that you saw yourself always going to be as part of the family business, or did you have aspirations to do something else?
So a funny story is that we're currently in Bawdsley area, and our original depot was in Highgate across the road on Darwin Street, which is just behind Leopold Street, you might know. So just a few yards from where we're sitting now.
Yeah.
And in our Darwin Street depot, and many of our customers probably will be listening, they'll remember the depot. We closed it down a few years ago, but there was a small flat in the car park. So it was a tiny little depot, and there was a flat in the car park. And I was 1 year old, and I used to live in that flat. And in that flat, there was my father, mum, my cha-cha, two cha-chas actually, two uncles, and my grandmother. So we all used to live in that 2-bed flat, and used to go. So I really have been in the business since birth, basically. Another funny story is I didn't have any teeth till I was about 8 years old, because I smashed my teeth on a trolley in the warehouse. So all I've ever known really is the business and the people around that business and so on. So it's really is from birth onwards. Okay.
But did you at any stage think, actually, maybe I don't want to do this, and maybe I might want to have a different sort of career line?
I grew up, as I said, in that business. I used to work weekends, holidays and all that stuff. But my life stream was always to be a barrister. So I went to study law in university, finished my law degree, and I said I was actually quite nervous to ask my dad. I was thinking I want to go on a holiday the day, after I finish my degree, and go and see a bit of the world, and I didn't have the guts. He said, "Okay, son, you'll be at the warehouse in the morning, won't you?" So I didn't move from there then. But I applied for my barrister's course, the BVC, Bar Vocational Course. Got the place, and again, didn't really. I'd left it till the last minute to ask Dad and tell Dad that I want to go and become a barrister. I'm going on this course, and I'm going to leave the business. So when I did tell him, he said, "Oh, well, look, we've grown the business, the company's growing well, family are working hard, and they have worked hard to get to this level." In those days, the company was a lot smaller than it was when we sold it. It was probably less than half the size of when we sold the company. Basically, I put my plans on hold and stayed in the business. But I kept studying. So instead of doing the bar course, I did my master's in commercial law, and I used to work in the day at Highgate Depot. I was running the Highgate Depot. I used to work 7 till 7, then go home, have my dinner, and then start studying from about 9 till 1, 2 o'clock, however much energy I had.
Yeah.
And then back to work the next morning. And I did that for a good couple of years to get that qualification. Once I got that, I still had that bug in my head that I wanted to be a lawyer. And I did ask my dad, I said, "Look, I'm saying I want to be a barrister, not a bank robber, What's wrong with you? Why don't you let me go?" But in hindsight, looking back, business life has been very good to me, and naturally very good to the family. A lot of hard work, a lot of effort, but the results have been very good with God's grace.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned that you sold the business, and then you've brought it back, which is roughly around about 2019. Before we go on to that, I just want to, and just for the listeners' benefit, from starting the business in the 60s, you've obviously grown the brand, very, very successful. Yeah. Up to the 2019, obviously you've gone through very different stages in in life, new technologies, new themes, new generations, etc., etc. What would you say have been the challenges during that time for the business to kind of maintain that brand, that reputation, and obviously grow? And what do you think were the main challenges and sort of things that you've learned and reflected from?
I think that one of the things that in business, if there's not a challenge, either you haven't got your eye on the ball or there's something wrong, because there will always be a challenge in business. So that just goes with the territory. We were good. We were lucky that we had a big family, and that family had a lot of unity over the years, and everybody had their own area of the business to look after. And obviously as families get larger, it gets more complicated. But all in all, the family was a very united family, and that's one of the big reasons why we managed to grow the business to the level we did. The second major point, and in addition to the loyalty we got from our customer base, who mainly were basically Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, subcontinent community that were over here, that was one thing. But the second thing was that our focus on the quality of our product. Now, the brand, in the very early days, what would happen is we were importing from all over the world, and at one point the quality of the product was brilliant, and then if the price went up of, say, chili powder, then suddenly the quality would drop because the supplier would adjust the quality. So then when we sell that chili powder, the housewife suddenly thinks, what's going on here? It's not the same chili powder. And so we decided very early on, probably kind of towards the late 90s, that we would produce everything in the UK. And by controlling that production process, by investing, we invested in those days about 30-40 million into a factory. And by investing in that factory, in fact, we were able to grow the brand because we were able to control the quality of our product. And that really was the birth of the East End brand as we know it today. So it's honesty, integrity, doing the best job you can, I suppose, ensuring you've got a laser focus on quality, and that really helped us a lot.
Okay, one thing you said that really touched on, and I think it's important within our community. I hear a lot about family businesses, and then the end of family businesses happen because as Asians, there's a lot of squabbles or fighting and sort of stuff. And I suppose the lesson here is that if you have got that unity and everyone maybe has their role to play, that value is there, that unity, that actually the success can be there. I think what happens is that as families grow and you see the first generation will develop and build, the second generation probably build a bit more, but actually hold the values close to their heart. When you get to the third generation have a slightly different image of life, because there might be a better standard of living, or there might be a more comfortable lifestyle, so they don't have to work every day, day in, day out. So they don't quite understand how do we get here, right? And then eventually what happens is that's where the thing sets in, where you get the squabbles. Now, really, it's how you deal with those squabbles, and the best way of dealing with the squabbles is to turn around and say, okay, we had an argument yesterday, call it a day, end of story, move on. And 99.9% of the time, that's what we used to do. We didn't, hold any grudges or anything. Yes, there's always, in families, as everybody knows, there's always little bits and bobs of issues. But as that family gets bigger, it gets more and more challenging. With your family members, did a lot of them, when they got to a certain age, just come and work within the family company, or did some of them go and work elsewhere, get some skills, and come back?
Mostly up to the second generation. So my generation and my older cousins, we all pretty much came into the business. But we understood the business fairly well. The third generation started to come in, and they were getting experience outside for a couple of years, then coming into the business. But then, because they hadn't had the background of the business, it was probably a little bit more complicated for them to understand.
Yeah, it's interesting because So my daughter's 13 at the moment, and at school she's doing a subject and she's learning about enterprise, and it's all about business.
Yeah.
And for a while, she said, "Look, what do you do as HR? I don't get what you do. You go to meetings or you go to these networking events. What's that got to do?" And I tried to explain it to her. Then when she told me that she started doing enterprise, I was like, "Okay, I'll go wait till you learn about HR, then you understand." Because I always make a little joke to her to say, "Look, one day you're going to take over this business," and she says, "No, it's boring." But then I've always thought, do you bring like, let's say, a family member, your daughter, someone straight away in? I always thought actually it'd be better for her to go and learn her trade elsewhere, and then when the time's right, then come into, let's say, the family business.
It is always better to do that,
yeah,
ideally, because you get the disciplines. To you, she's always going to be your daughter, so she will get away with murder, basically, right? So if she makes a mistake, you'll say, "Chalo beta, koi gal nahi," no problem. You come on, we'll don't do it next time. When you're working for someone else, it's a bit more complicated. So if they come in with that viewpoint, but that being said, dependent on the size of the business, sometimes it might be actually better because you might need the help urgently, and you can train her on the job. So it's really horses for courses. It's where you are at a particular stage and what suits you. But generically, I would say better to go out, get a bit of experience, bring that back and grow the business.
I'm at that challenge now where my wife's saying, "Look, I want to come and work for you, just give me some sort of job." And I'm like, "No, you're definitely not coming to work for me."
I work with my wife.
Yeah.
So I'm CEO of our new company, Lioncroft Wholesale. My wife is the Chief Operating Officer, and my brother is into the marketing and sales side. Dad's still there as chairman, and Mum's there. Mum comes a couple of hours a day.
When you're as a family, do you ever switch off in the sense of, look, when you're at home, conversations, when you go on holiday, conversations, can you literally switch off about work, or is it just constantly I think it's constant?
I think it's probably slightly unhealthy, but it's a way of life. So you can't switch off, even if you try, which we do try. Eventually, after 5-10 minutes, it's straight back to the business. Yeah. Because it's such a part of you. It's in your DNA, right? So you can't change that, unfortunately.
Yeah. No.
And people who own businesses, no matter what size or scale they are, they're always of that ilk that it's part of their being. So when it's your own, it becomes more personal.
So, what was the catalyst to yourself selling East End and then buying a large portion of it back?
So what happened was that our business was, by the time we sold, it had a fairly global footprint. We were supplying product around all different countries of the world. The turnover of the business was about £220 million. We were employing probably in the region of about 400 people, and in addition to another 50 family members in the business. And it was getting quite big. But you're at that point where it's either you scale up really fast and try and push upwards to the £1 billion mark and supplying a wider audience in a bigger way, or it's probably time to put your hands up and say, "Look, time to move on or retire." And a lot of the first generation were actually at retirement age, and they wanted to just chill. Basically, they wanted to calm down. So we were approached by a private equity company, investors who wanted to buy our business, and also by other Asian food businesses from around the UK, and build like a group of them. And they put it to the family, and the family said, "Well, yeah, it's probably a good time," and the rest is history. So we sold the business. The deal completed in 2019 November, and I couldn't quite come to the conclusion that I wanted to walk away, and nor did I want to work for anyone else.
Yeah.
So I approached the buyer and said, "Look, there's a wholesale division of this company, as you know, which a lot of your listeners probably will know of as well, the East End Cash and Carry business, which actually was 3/4 of the turnover of the company. So it was about 160-ish million turnover, and we supply near enough 5,000 independent retail stores and many of them are as I said, probably listening. And I couldn't walk away, quite honestly. So I said I'll buy it back. So immediately entered into discussions with them to buy that side of the company back, and we branded it as Lioncroft Wholesale Ltd. And we've been there now a year and a half. It's going very, very well. We've grown the business by about 12-15% in the first 10 months. It continues to grow, and we're very focused to take this company probably north of £500 million turnover in the next 6 or 7 years. So it's hard work, but it's good fun.
So you've kind of rebranded,
yeah,
sort of thing, but the main ethos and the values and everything, and is it still a family business? Is it still the majority of your family that still work there?
No. It's just my immediate family. So me, my dad, wife, brother, mum.
Okay.
And then we've got a completely new management team, because the others wanted to retire, so they're all doing kind of their own thing. Actually, they're all just relaxing, I think, enjoying life. And I, as I said, I couldn't quite come to that conclusion that I wanted to retire this early. So that's why I jumped back in.
Okay, that's good stuff. As a business, is it? You're obviously very community focused, and I know through some of the, we'll talk a little bit about some of the other things that you get involved in, which is very much community orientated. But from a workforce point of view, from an ethos and a value point of view, did you think about that actually, okay, look, I do want to give back to the community, the people that we recruit or the people that we develop, these are the sort of things that we also want to strive to as well?
So I think, first of all, the community within the business is very strong. Be it our customer base, be it our team, our colleagues. Some of our colleagues have worked in the business for 30 plus years. In fact, one of our colleagues, Mr. Mohammed Fiaz, he retired 4 months ago, and he'd worked for us for 42 years.
Wow!
So he would often tell me when I'd have a moan or a complaint and say, "Oh, Fiaz, you need to do this," he would say, "I used to take you to the toilet when you were a kid." So, and I never had an answer for that. So
our community is great to remind us about things like this.
Bring you back down to earth.
Yeah. Our community is great in that. Yeah.
So that community is very much reflected, and we have a lot of love for each other. And as I said, people have worked for us. 25 in some cases, 25, 30 years, but even their kids are working for us.
Yeah.
So it's good to see.
Recently I found a lot of businesses struggle with recruitment now, and
very much
maybe the worth ethic of people. Have you experienced that? Because my dad tells me, and my older cousins tell me, that says, "Look, what do you guys know? You've not grafted.
Yeah.
Everything's easy for you guys now. There's so much options for you." And I can kind of see. But do you also see within your business that over a while the generations change, people aren't grafting, and actually people talk back a little bit more than...
They do. I think that's got a plus and a minus. So talking back in a particular way shouldn't be a bad thing. Having an opinion shouldn't be a bad thing, but it's how you convey that opinion and knowing who you're talking to when you're conveying that opinion. That's just a life skill, right? So it's not necessarily... It probably is maybe a generational thing, but I suppose, there's people that work for me that are a younger generation, and I find they're quite different to my viewpoint even today, right? So that's just a natural evolution of society, I suppose. When you come to work ethic, there is definitely a reduction in work ethic. I find that if I look at my demographic of my staff, there is a large demographic that are from India and Pakistan who have come over here newly married and joined our business, and very highly educated people, from back home, but they're working here, and they're working in a warehouse environment, cash and carry environment, and they stick there and they work really hard and they're sincere. If you compare that to other more, localized communities, even British Asians there's a different approach to life.
Mm.
They think, oh well, we want, you know, work-life balance, and you know, we want to work 2 days from home, and we want to do this and we want to do that. But the reality of business, actually, which a lot of people are forgetting, is that it's competitive, and you can be relaxed, but you can only be relaxed for so long, and you'll soon get caught out. So there will come a point where things will have to come a little bit full circle, in terms of people having to start looking at, you know, our competitive nature within the global scale. You know, within the global market, how do we, as Britain, sit compared to the likes of the Far East or South America or so and so? So there is a bit of a realism. COVID has made a lot of change, and you know, that's not our doing. So what can you do?
Oh, brilliant, Jason. We're just going to take a short break. Guys, you're listening to the Business Hour with Umar Rashid here. We have on the show today Dr. Jason Wourha, who's been sharing his journey and his family's journey from the starting with East End to selling East End, and now coming back with a vengeance under the branding of Lioncroft. Please do stay tuned, and we'll be back after a short break. Welcome back to the Business Hour. I'm your host, Umar Rashid, and today we have with us Dr. Jason Wourha. Jason, you spoke just before the break, so we kind of got to the journey of you sold the business, majority of your family owners have now, some members, retiring, chilling, you're still here and wanting to take the business on now. Having known you for a while, not that long, but for a while, I see, you know, obviously you've got your education. I see you being a bit methodical, and you seem to be one that I think you would put a business plan and a business strategy in place.
Yeah, try to.
Yeah. But I take it, I'm guessing your dad and his brothers probably never, because maybe at that time the whole concept of business planning, business strategy, you know, it wasn't there, and it's probably very much like, okay, here's a business, this is what we're going to do, let's just keep it simple, buy and sell sort of thing. But how have you evolved?
I think if you take a step back, so the old company, East End Foods, it was very much built, and a lot of our Asian companies are the same score. They were built very much on the touch and feel of the market. What does my customer need, and how fast can I serve them? Yeah. Right? And our business was very similar. So, you know, for example, one example would be, there was a demand for Pakistani basar in the market. Now, we didn't even have a formula for Pakistani basar, but we made one very quickly, got the right expertise, and got it packed, and within, you know, a few months it was on the market. Yeah. So the business planning system is really, really good and very powerful. And admittedly, East End Foods didn't really have a business plan in all the years that we were trading. I mean, they have now, because it's run by a big, you know, investors organisation that's slightly different to what we were. But not having a business plan isn't the end of the world, but it is very effective in keeping clarity. So we made East End work without a business plan, but when I launched, me and my immediate family launched Lioncroft Wholesale, I said, I have to have a business plan, guys, because this is the new world, this is the new way of doing things. And the first thing I did was sat down in a room, locked myself in a room, made a vision and mission statement and value statement. And the vision of my company is to be the best and most respected operator in the wholesale food industry in the UK. And the values of the company are, first and foremost, honesty, opportunity, taking advantage of your opportunities, finding opportunities for business, power, the power of the team collectively, and energy. You need energy to make things happen. And if you see, that spells hope. Honesty, opportunity, power, and energy. Okay. So that is then conveyed to the whole team, and we're just about to start doing. So we had a first strategy day in the 50-year history of our business life, and we had that last Friday in the mailbox. So I had all my management team there, and then so we're building a really good strategy. We're building a road map or route map to how to grow this business even further.
What challenges would you then find cascading that strategy, that vision, that values to your workforce all the way down to the shop floor? And when you've got people who have come from, like you said, India, Pakistan, who just want to work, graft, maybe don't really get this sort of concept. You've then got millennials who probably just come in and just think, oh my God, what are you on about? I just want to work and go home, or whatever sort of stuff. What challenges do you think you're going to find?
The word hope resonates with everybody. I hope to do better. I hope to be here in the future. I hope to be, doing this, that, or the other. So that is a very simplistic concept.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's got to resonate with people. It's got to mean something to people. However they translate it in their own mind, we can give them our version of the story of how we want it to look in the company.
Yeah.
But it's also got to touch their heart as well. If it doesn't touch their heart, they can't relate to it. And if, with due respect, if you've got people stacking shelves for you and they're only there to stack shelves, they may as well not be there. So it's about creating a community within the organisation, creating a family within the organisation, and respecting people. And that respect is really, really important, because that is what helps you grow your business. We maybe call it in our language barkat.
Yeah.
That you've got to, I've always been taught by my parents that, work as hard as you can. The results are in God's hands. So you've got no influence on the result. The only thing in your hands is the work. And to be honest, I've never felt any type of failure from that concept. So simplistic concepts that stick with you.
And you're right. It's always the simpler things. I think sometimes we live in a world where people overcomplicate things, or think that they need to overcomplicate things to get results, but it's always the simple and the basic.
The sign of an intelligent person is when they keep things simple.
Yeah.
When you hear people that talk too much and they try and create some kind of a cloud in front of you that is magical cloud, you know that they really haven't got much essence to them. Yeah. That's my guess.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think, like, one of the things I always say to people is, especially certain things like HR, certain things like recruitment, I go, look, there's no magic science to it. Just keep things simple. Do you know what I mean? Put an advert out, explain to people, respond quickly. The longer you leave it, you're going to lose it. But it's these same simple basics. How to manage staff. It's always the same simple basics.
There'll be certain people you'll hire and they don't like it.
Yeah.
So they leave, which you've got to just accept. You've got to say, well, okay. It probably, in some ways, it's a blessing, because you found out quickly. Okay, either they don't like you or you don't like them, or something like that, and it doesn't quite work. But we do retain quite a lot of our team.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, in the Asian community, we live in Birmingham. Very, very strong with Indian, Pakistanis, Indian, Sikhs, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis. We're very much within the similar retail, wholesale sort of business now. If someone's so we might have some listeners listening from that business who have either just started up or thinking about it, or maybe at that point where they're thinking, okay, look, we've reached a certain level, but we want to go up another level. What advice, what guidance would you be giving them to say, look, maybe these are sort of things you could possibly consider, or something that maybe you guys did that thought actually that worked well for you?
I think you've got to have an understanding of your customer base. So, treating customer as the king it's a fairly obvious point, but a lot of people say it, but they don't do it.
Do you think Asians do value their customers?
I think Asians value customers more than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Maybe it's our culture. We, that hospitable type of, somebody comes to your house and you really treat them well and whatever, and that's I think maybe it's just the cultural thing that drives that.
It's interesting you say that, because sometimes I see Asian businesses, especially the hospitality.
Yeah.
I don't think the value is there with the customer. I think that they know that the customer's just going to come, and they probably don't really care that much about the experience. I'm going to target a bit more about, let's say, the restaurants.
Yeah.
Certain restaurants, I think they probably don't really care about the look of the restaurant or how they treat it, because they just know customers will come. I don't know, maybe I've got that wrong, but sometimes I get a certain vibe with certain businesses, certain Asian owners, certain mindsets that they're like, look, people are going to come. If you don't come, that's fine. We've got plenty more who will still come.
I think you'd have to be in a very lucky situation to be in that type of scenario. I think the reality of business is the minute you take your eye off the ball, the customer tells you you're doing a bad job. And they don't tell you verbally, they tell you with their feet. They walk away. And that's painful. So coming back to what we were talking about earlier about quality, that's coming into honesty, integrity of what you produce, what you put in your packet, is why the customer comes back. My father says to me, he's been he was the salesman of the family, and he basically would say he was one day standing in a store on Soho Road, very recently, only about 4 or 5 years ago, and just before we sold the business actually, and a lady came up and said, I want chili powder, and the owner of the store, he was talking to Dad, he said, oh Benji, this is the chili powder, and he had some other brand of chili powder next, and the East End chili powder wasn't there. And she says, I don't want that one, I want East End. So that to my family is the biggest compliment.
Yeah,
that somebody's openly saying, look, no, I'd rather turn that brand down, but I want the other brand, the East End brand. So I think it's, when you look at restaurants, or you look at any business, it's really the minute you start ignoring your customer, that's the route to failure.
Okay. Part of my introduction to you, Jason, I mentioned you're the president of the Asian Chamber. You're a chairman for the West Midlands India Partnership. You're also like a member of the Aston Uni Governing Council. Someone listening and thinking, okay, look, you're a business owner, and you strived hard to work on your business. Why dip outside of that to go on to boards and become presidents or board members or executive committees? What's the purpose? What do you get out of it? Is there a purpose? Is there, and again, was it for you? Was there a strategy behind it? Was there a purpose behind it? Was there a goal behind going to these sort of things?
So the corporate answer for anyone that you would ask that question to would be to give back. This word is used quite a lot, to give back.
Yeah.
I think there's another strand to that. Yes, there is giving back. There is wanting to be part of society and having a contribution, which is really, really important. And I've done many things over the years. I've advised prime ministers on business. I've ran the Child Poverty Commission. I was president of the Child Poverty Commission. I was chairman of the West Midlands Police Business Board. I was chairman of the Institute of Directors for many years. I was the first Asian ever in 120 years, and the youngest ever. And I was also the youngest ever to gain their Chartered Director qualification in the world. For me, it's about learning, and any conversation you'll have with anyone, if you've got your mind open, you'll learn from them. And it might be the smallest nugget of information, but it could translate into something quite important to you. So the other thing I was involved in, and I never imagined I'd ever see myself in this role, but it was I was a board director at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital for 6 years.
Okay.
And I was on the board at the time of COVID, which was really, really, really tough, very tough. But I learnt a lot over the years from different people, from different interactions, being involved in loads of different things. And I thank God that these opportunities have come my way, really, because it's allowed me to use that knowledge and put it back into my business.
being the president of the Asian Chamber,
Yeah.
it's allowed you to come across majority of the time Asian business owners, business people, sort of thing. What challenges do you think they face, especially post-COVID, or if we can still say post-COVID, still living in it? But what challenges do you think Asians face?
I'm not sure challenges are particularly difficult. I think a lot of our businesses are SMEs. So a lot of the people I deal with are SMEs, shopkeepers. And it's tough. It's very, very, very tough. They've got similar problems like finding staff or finding finance is a problem. You know, they don't have the strength of financial, the backup behind them to have weathered this kind of storm. I mean, you know, for the government to say close businesses down for COVID, what's happened to these people's livelihoods? It's ridiculous. So you know, I think there is a lot of essence and value in us as a community sticking together, and that really is the reason why the Asian Business Chamber is around. Because looking back 34 years, my family were involved in the establishment of the Institute of Asian Business, which is the forerunner to the ABCC. And it was always about supporting our community collectively with one voice. And that's really, really important, because now you get all of these little groups in government saying, you know, minority ethnic business groups who, that's fine, they talk a good talk, but what are they actually doing to understand the grassroots? I don't think there's much going on. So our strength and our unity is so important as an Asian community, be it Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Sri Lankan. Anyone from that subcontinent community, we're in it together. We're 4% of the population and we deliver 9% of the country's GDP. You name one other community that has that kind of power. Yet we don't harness the power. We don't stick together. In the old days we used to stick together.
What do you think that is now? Why do you think there is
I think
segregation or, don't want to say hatred or competition or whatever, but why do you think that we are losing that strength that we had as a community?
Well, I think the community is bigger, so it obviously is easier to go into your own little mini communities, which isn't good in the longer run. Maybe a lack of understanding, I don't know. It's there's something has to be done to bring unity between us, because that is really what's going to make us a powerful force in this country, well, in the world, really. You know,
do you think society or communities or whatever stifle Asian businesses or stifle business owners to kind of put themselves out there? You've obviously put yourself out there, but do you feel there's enough? Because within our community there's a lot of successful businesses, a lot of successful businessmen, a lot of successful business women.
9% of the GDP.
But do you think for whatever reason they're stifled or they lack that confidence to put themselves out there to actually maybe lead on certain things, initiatives to push for change and then to kind of push for unity?
So I'll go back to what I said earlier about passion. And if you haven't got passion, you can't achieve anything. The people with passion are the people that get the success, because no matter what will come, they will try and achieve their best. They will do their best, you know, and the results are up to the Almighty. So I really do believe that if you look, there are many, many, many examples, so many examples, even within our Asian Business Chamber group, of very successful businesses. And I'm not talking about size or scale necessarily. I'm talking about just the purpose and the passion that they have for their business and how they make a success of it. And I think the more we develop that in our coming generations, the more we can then move forward with even more prowess, you know.
Back to yourself. What's the future? What I mean, you're you're obviously not. I take you're still not ready to let go. You're still not ready to like the other family members to retire.
Yeah.
So you probably, you're still, I would say, relatively young.
Yeah.
So what?
Just about.
Yeah. So what is the future for you? What aspirations do you have? What do you think?
Well, I really enjoy what I do. I feel a great sense of pride that in some kind of way one person or a few people out of the family have decided to continue the legacy of our company and what the family built. I think there's a huge opportunity. My game is dealing with small shopkeepers, independent retailers, restaurants, SMEs, and people talk about Amazon and all these big global companies, and naturally, yes, they are a threat. There's no doubt about it. But actually, you know what? We've got a lot of power, and it's about harnessing that. And the more I can serve my customer well, the better I can develop the business, and the more I can continue to serve the customer well. And I get a lot of pride from doing that. So I think for me, that's what it's about.
Okay.
Yeah.
If and when you do retire, would you still stay in England, or do you have a certain destination that you'd want to go to?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. I would probably stay in England. I like Birmingham in a weird kind of way.
I do as well.
I think Birmingham's a really really nice place to live. I didn't think that when I was a teenager, mind you, but Birmingham. I like Birmingham. I like what's going on in the city, and you've got the Commonwealth Games coming up, and so much going on, and I think that it's got a very bright future. So I always see myself living in the city.
I'm a Brummy through and through.
Yeah,
I used to go Cov Uni, and then never stayed there. I was like typical age, and I need to have my mum's roti, needed to eat all of that sort of stuff. My sister then got married when we moved to London. She was like, "Come to London," and I was like, "Well, whatever you got in London, Birmingham has a very good equivalent."
Yeah. No, I think it's a good mix. I've just spent 2 days in London on various board meetings, and I just find London a very impersonal type of place. It's great. It's bright lights, big city, and it's almost like another country within a country. But I think this city's got a lot to offer.
Jason, if people wanted to get in touch for whatever reason, how best can they do so?
So I've got an email that is a general email that's from work, and that is news@eews.co.uk.
Okay.
And that message will get picked up and sent to me. So that's probably the most convenient way of doing it.
One thing I notice about you is you're not... I'd say one aspect of the world you probably... I don't know whether you enjoy it or you haven't grasped, but social media... you're not very... It's not an angle that you go down. I don't know. And whether is that just a personal choice, or you just think... is there something about social media that you just think that is just not for me?
I haven't got the time, to be honest. I have been told this, that you need to be on social media, you need to be active. And I kind of touch on it and I don't touch on it, and I'm not really too bothered. But hopefully at some point I'll get more engaged. I don't think I've updated my LinkedIn profile for about 8 years. So
but not being big on, or not being very active on social media, is that just because it's the type of business you are, and is it because, again, the audience that you're attracting, maybe they're not on those sort of platforms as well?
No, I think they are. I think so. From a business perspective, we're actually bringing in a whole new social media and web strategy. I've actually pinched one of the head of IT from Weetabix to come in and redevelop my software and my kind of whole IT platforms. So from a work perspective, there'll be a lot of work done on that, because I think that everybody is using social media, but from a personal perspective, I think there's better things to be doing.
I'm sure you got some Punjabi moves that if you created a TikTok account or anything like that, you could, you know.
I don't move that well, mate. I don't.
Are you into your films?
I quite like films. Mind you, I haven't seen a good Indian film for a long time.
Okay.
I've got dinner with a guy that's coming in, a Bollywood playback singer next week, which will be interesting because I don't.
So you
really
could do
know
a bit of a duet with him. Create a, it's on TikTok. It's all the thing. It's all the craze that nowadays.
Yeah,
you know.
I think when you see that happening, mate, it will be that I've lost the plot completely.
Jason, massive thank you for coming on the show today. I really enjoyed it.
Pleasure.
I mean, there's so much more we could have gone into, but you know, the journey of you, your family, and everything. But obviously, conscious of time. But a massive thank you. I've really enjoyed listening.
Thank you for having me on.
No worries. And like I said, we're similar ages.
Yes.
You know, I am just going to slide in and say I am a bit younger than yourself. Even though if we looked at each other, we probably couldn't tell. I have to dye my hair and beard at times to kind of keep the youngest. But it's an inspiration, and I think one key lesson I'm going to take from you today is that you're right, and one thing that really resonates is passion. And I think I have a passion for a few things, and sometimes the passion gets the better of me. But I think you're right, which is, look, if you've got a passion for something, you've got that drive, you've got that energy, you make it happen and you make the difference. So thank you for that. Guys, you've been listening to the Business Hour here on Unity FM with Wouhra. We've just had the amazing Jason Wouhra on today. If you caught the back end of the show and you want to listen to it again, the show will be repeated again on this Saturday at 5 o'clock. Alternatively, you can visit the Unity FM website and the shows will be broadcasted on there. You can also visit my YouTube channel at Umar Rashid HR with all this episode as well as all the previous guests, and the episodes will be shown on there as well. Please do connect with me on my social media platforms: LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Again, the handles for all of them is at Umar Rashid HR. Please tune in again next Tuesday, 6 o'clock, where we'll have another amazing guest sharing their journey and expertise in the world of business. Until then, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Do